Welcome, everybody. I'm so looking forward to part 3 of 4, just a rehash of the previous trainings. Part 1 was kind of setting the foundation of, looking at what are the key components of why you don't manifest and how you can. Part 2 is looking at that primal brain, the caveman brain, the 3 parts of the brain, and the procedural memory or implicit learning of why you don't manifest and how your brain can get in the way of manifesting. It can lower your vibration. It can create an ego and false self. I believe the ego is really linked to that limbic system, that midbrain. And if you're defined by your negative emotions that are for sure to fill you up, you're going to have trouble manifesting. But if you connect to like anger and fear and have a clarity of mind, energy, and body systems, you can manifest more quickly. And we'll talk more about how trauma or the wound, and by trauma I mean anything that keeps you separated from your core essence, your core being, your true self. Anything that keeps you in that lower vibration of your ego, false self, and negative wiring of the brain and body systems and energy system. That's what trauma is. So just being born can be traumatic, and it can mess up your nervous system and your attachment system. So let's get started and talk about what am I talking about in terms of all this good stuff, right? So Stephen Porges developed something called polyvagal theory, and it helps you understand how you connect to yourself and connect to others. Can either make you feel safe in the world or unsafe in the world. And if you feel unsafe in the world, you have trouble manifesting because you're not connected to your bigger essence. And I put the picture of my puppy there because she's right now 11 weeks. So she's learning to feel safe by connecting to me and my black lab, the caribou, who you saw in the previous trainings videos. So she's starting to really feel safe in the world. We are going to a coffee shop, and when I first got her, she wouldn't go into the coffee shop. But as long as I walk in first, she'll follow me. She will feel safe in many difficult places because I am helping mirror back to her true essence, her true self, the core being within her. And I'm helping her learn how to orient to the world where she can feel big and strong and safe. And our parents are supposed to do the same thing to us. Yet, at least in my childhood, my parents didn't mirror my positive self back to me. They didn't mirror my true essence back to me. In fact, they judged it and they put it down as being wrong and less than. If I spoke the truth about a situation, they would deny that that was true. Crazy making, right? So when I went to manifest as that high schooler, my attachment system was insecure, and I couldn't create the reality for my high school self that I deserved to create for myself. Stephen Porges writes, the evolution of the vertebrate autonomic nervous system to the emergence of social behavior creates a container for polyvagal theory. And I'll show you a picture of the vagus nerve, but it basically runs through all your major organs, from your facial nerves through the heart, the lungs, the liver, all the organs. And when it shuts down, it lowers your frequency, makes you feel unsafe. It makes you go to either hypoarousal or hyperarousal. And you can't really connect to the end environment in a way to manifest. It lowers your sense of self to a false self. It activates the caveman brain. So instead of having healthy emotions to manifest things, you have collapsed emotions, victim consciousness, on defensive reactivity. You have ego defenses, unhealthy ways of protecting yourself instead of healthy ways. And it creates negative wiring in that implicit learning, that procedural memory. And we'll talk a little bit more about that again in this training. So let's move on. Let's talk about the attachment system and what did I mean by anxious, ambivalent, and insecure attachment. So again, the attachment system is your nervous systems, your vagus nerve reactivity to the world around you. It rewires your brain's limbic reactivity and it influences procedural memory. So my puppy that's developing secure attachment feels safe in the world, knows she's of value, can stand up for herself, can have connection with others. When we walk down the path, when she meets a dog and when she meets somebody that's really kind, she automatically goes to them. However, I've noticed that if somebody's energy is different than, oh, I want to meet and love you, puppy, she actually kind of avoids them. So her attachment system is really becoming secure. And again, my definition of secure attachment is self-identifying yourself as your core being and not your ego, your false self, and negative belief and unhealthy defenses. Okay. So there's 3 types of insecure attachment system, 3 main types. One is called anxious, where you're fear of abandonment. Another one is called avoidant, where you're afraid of connection. And one's anxious ambivalent. I was afraid of both connection and being abandoned as a kid. Yet you can rewire that. And in different situations, you may react differently. I know that I have this awesome client who had more of a avoidant attachment system. And when he was in a big setting with lots of people, he felt really outgoing and could connect to people. But when he was just one-on-one, he was more avoidant. So you can express different attachment styles with different people and in different settings. Cool? Let's move on. So another thing, polyvagal theory that Stephen Porges talks about is a bidirectional communication between the brain, body, and energy system. So you have the top-down system where you think something and you can really think things through. Like in this presentation, I have a top-down system where I'm thinking about what to tell you. It's organized, I feel safe, I'm not activated into my negative attachment reactivity or limbic caveman brain. I'm top-down system. But sometimes, like if all of a sudden a bomb would go off or something would trigger me, or if something would trigger a past trauma, my bottom-up system, my primal brain, my midbrain, limbic brain, caveman brain would react first, and my higher brain would shut down. That's the bottom-up system. So when we feel safe, we have top-down system. When we don't feel safe, it's the bottom-up system or that procedural memory. That's where your habituated patterns get stuck. So trauma influences the brain. So trauma in your attachment system influences the brain. So what are trauma-orienting responses? How does that influence the brain? Does it make me shut down and go hypo or hyper-aroused? Those are the 2 main trauma-orienting responses. We perceive the world inaccurately. We will shut down when we need to be more proactive, or we'll be over-reactive when we're really safe. We kind of touched on that in the last training. So trauma-orienting responses foster manifestation or prevent it. I think you're getting that now, right? Feel it in your body, have it be in your procedural memory that when you go limbic, that's what it's called. They talk about here's your higher brain, here's your limbic brain. And when you go limbic, you lose your higher brain, you flip your lid, and you go limbic. You bottom-up system takes over, and it can get in the way of manifesting. Whereas you can have fear and anger, like I did when I was in Cambodia, and I got really clear this needs to end now, and a ceasefire, and I got my babies out of the country. So simply responding out of congruence with the energy of the moment can change your vibration and thus can prevent manifestation. So if I had been fearful and victimized when I was in Cambodia, I'm like, oh no, they're going to hurt me. That energy would really be manifested from the universe to me in this collapsed state and probably wouldn't have manifested that ceasefire. So simply responding out of congruence, this is really important, with the energy of the moment can change your vibration, lower your vibration, and thus prevent manifestation. I think you get it, right? You get how the brain and body systems influence your vibration, which then influences your creations in life. So remember I told you I'd give you a picture of the vagus nerve? So that there is the vagus nerve. It covers all your main organs. And it's almost like the manifesting nerve. If it's called high dorsal tone, we don't need to get too technical, but if it's regulating at, it's called social engagement, at a safe place, you're going to have a higher frequency and have better manifestation. There is that negativity bias of the brain that can hold you back. The caveman brain was always looking for danger, yet that's not always a great way to manifest because what you focus on grows. If all you're looking for what's not showing up, you're going to get more of what's not showing up. Whereas if you open to really receiving what you sent your intention to, not clinging to it, not thinking about it, but you kind of let it go like I did in Cambodia. I set my intention, this has to end, I let it go, I didn't think about it, the ceasefire happened. So that negativity bias of the brain, the looping mind, the low vibrational frequency of the mind at the brain system instead of the white paint mind, changing the brain can hold you back. That monkey, mouse, and reptile creates an ego sense of self instead of a core being sense of self. It can hold you back if it's at the lower frequency. Let your ego feel unsafe to rewire your brain as you learn to self-identify as your core being. So why would I want your ego to feel unsafe? There's always going to be a trigger in life. Let it be unsafe, be individualized, differentiated, and detached from it. It can do whatever you want. It's the uninvited guest that will always knock on your door. At least for me, I'm never going to get rid of those negative thoughts that come back, but I don't have to attach to them. They don't have to define my value. I can see them as energy and not who I am. And then neuroplasticity. So we've learned a couple steps and skills to rewire the brain, which is called neuroplasticity. The brain and body systems, your attachment system can be rewired. Right now I have secure attachment most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time. Whereas my high school self really didn't have a healthy attachment system, didn't know what it meant to feel safe and secure in my mind, my body, and my essence. So let's do an exercise on manifesting. Last video, last training, we looked at why we didn't manifest something. This time, we're going to talk about how to manifest something. What do you want to manifest? So there was this wonderful client, and he came in and said, I want to be in a relationship. Yet his attachment system was so triggered. He was avoidant most of the time, and even when a girl would look at him, he would look away, and he would have that procedural memory, that implicit learning of it's not safe to connect. And I told him he had some personal work to do before he was going to get the relationship. And I suggested that it looked like about 2 years. In 2 years, he would find his divine love. And so I got a call from him this week, actually. And he's like, guess what? I found my amazing love, and now we want to start a family. So can you help me look at my attachment system and my brain wiring and how I run my false self, ego, and energy in a way that would possibly get in the way of starting a family? So yeah, so what do you want to manifest? Do you want to start a family? Do you want a relationship? Do you want more money? Do you want a different career? Do you want more joy in your life? What do you want to manifest? And write that down. And again, you can pause the tape at any time. Is there a trauma or wound link that might get in the way of you manifesting? I call it name, own, and claim. We'll talk more about it. It's step 3 of the 5 steps that you learn in this training for manifesting. Is there a trauma wound link in the way? Kind of think about what false self, what emotional pain, what LVC could get in the way, and write that down. So for me, if I was thinking of my small self, my teenage self, I would say I want to manifest a relationship for her. She had terrible trauma, terrible attachment wounding from a very abusive environment in her childhood. And the LVC, emotional pain involved, she felt she was not enough. She felt it wasn't safe to connect to somebody and be loved because they would smash her down. And what is the positive sense of self emotion alternative? Well, I would help her feel that she was enough, and I'd help her name qualities of the essence. I was kind. Back then, I started a campaign to prevent leg hold traps, those traps that kind of can tear off a leg of a fox if it catches it. I was trying to save the world back then. I was a very caring, loving, optimistic child. So I would name all the things of my true self, and I would create a column of this is my true self, this is my false self, and make a list of that. So maybe you guys could make a list of that for number 4. And then after you make the last list of the false self, because sometimes when you go to write things that are good about you, all you can think is bad, get them out, write a list, come in with the true self, and then feel as an emotion and sensation in the body the essence of who you really are. Program it into your procedural memory, your implicit learning, that unconscious part of you, that subconscious essence. So let's just pause the tape where you need to, and then come back. I want you to imagine who you were before birth, and let's do a quick meditation on this. You with me? Okay. Connecting breath with awareness, kind of feel your feet on the ground, and really breathe through the lower abs. It's called parasympathetic breathing. In trauma work, if you're breathing only with the upper chest, it's more of a trauma breathing than embodiment breathing. Or make lower sounds come into your body. Feel a strong base on the lower body. Then I want you to imagine, well, part of you stays kind of in your belly. Put your hand on your belly or on your legs, keeping grounded, while part of you goes out to imagine who you were before birth, the sparkles of the essence of you. And in the training part 1, I showed you pictures of essence. Who were you before birth? And imagine that energy of that spiritual wholeness. Some call it the higher self. I like calling it the true self because it's not higher than me. It is me. It just needs more incarnation into this beloved human form. As you learn to self-identify as the essence of who you are, using pain and difficulty as the energetic portal to bring that, to rewire your brain and body systems, incarnate, bring more of your essence into physical form, It awakens the energy and the higher vibration of manifestation. Allowing yourself to imagine the essence of you coming in through the top of the head. Watching it, don't make it come in. Notice, trust. Watch it come in. Bringing the energy in your head lower into your body, even letting your head come down. As you watch and feel and surrender to receive. Connecting breath with awareness, surrendering into any tingles, flows, colors, frequencies of who you really are. This is me, this is the true me, letting that high vibration fill you up. Top, bottom, left, right, front, back. Pause the tape, letting it come in. Connecting breath with awareness, letting it come in even deeper. My beautiful essence. Hello, beloveds. Say hello to your essence. Sending love and kindness to your human, the vehicle that holds who you truly are. Connecting breath and awareness again, letting that fill up like sand fills an hourglass. Feel yourself home, connected to that core being. From here, you can self-regulate and manifest. So let's go over the steps, skills, and laws. Spiritual law 3, patterns will repeat if not healed. Name, own, and claim the negative emotion, false self in the way. We kind of just did that in the exercise. Skill 3, feel the emotional pain as an emotion in the mind and a sensation in the body. You cannot transform something that you're not in contact with. I'm so sorry you have to feel the pain and acknowledge it before you can transform it, which we'll talk about in part 4, the last part of this training series. So yeah, feel it, but don't be it. Step 2, skill 2, spiritual law 2, it's just energy. Yeah, so here you are, getting ready to manifest. You can be in contact with what's asking for transformation, which we'll do in the next section. Sending love and blessings along the way. See you in part 4.